Colorado is seeing its first COVID-19 cases. This is news that is expected. One is a man in his 30s who was skiing in Summit County. The other is an older woman who just got back to Douglas County from an international trip.
State health officials and the governor announced the cases today, and they explained what we know about the first presumptive cases and how the state is responding. Here is 9 News reporter Jennifer Meckles.
That patient is a man in his 30s. He was visiting Summit County from out of state. State officials say this man traveled to Italy last month with somebody who has now tested positive for COVID-19. But the state says this man had no symptoms when he came to Colorado on February 29th. He flew into DIA, then took a rental car to Summit County, where he met some friends and stayed in a condo. State officials said the man skied at Vail and Keystone resorts. The man developed symptoms on Tuesday, March 3rd, went to St. Anthony's Medical Center in Frisco. There was a sample taken yesterday, March 4th, and the state lab gave a presumptive positive result for COVID-19 today, March 5th. The patient was allowed to leave the hospital and recover at lower elevation. He is now in Jefferson County in isolation. His fiancée is in quarantine. The 2 friends who joined them live in Colorado. They were ordered to quarantine too. The state is investigating those who have come in contact with this man. They are also going to test 4 healthcare workers who treated him at St. Anthony's.
We'll continue to honor the CDC testing criteria. In addition, we will aggressively use testing for anybody in the chain of contact with this first case, as well as the second case.
The second case, an elderly woman in Douglas County, who state officials say recently traveled out of the country. She is currently in isolation at her home.
But watching what has happened in other places, we want to make sure that we, to the extent we can, nip this into the bud to prevent this from breaking out in Colorado in a greater way.
Jennifer Meckles, 9 News.
Beyond that, the governor would only say health officials are investigating these cases and trying to figure out who else may have been exposed.
We know the first patient traveled through DIA last Saturday. Spokesperson for the airport says even they don't know which airline. The CDC notified the airport this afternoon. The airport says that it is up to the CDC to notify passengers who may have been around someone with coronavirus. We don't know if they have or will warn people in this instance.
Summit County held a news conference within the last hour and offered little new information. Even after they were asked questions, they really didn't give us much of an update about specifics on this case. 9 News reporter Mark Salinger was there. And Mark, we know you pressed again and again.
Yeah, Kim, more questions than answers, I think would be fair to say right now. Health officials right now are trying to go through and figure out where this man was on which day and the contact that he may have had with different people, if he had any contact at all. Here's what we do know right now. We know that he skied at Keystone and Vail resorts, though we don't know which days he was at which resort. Health officials wouldn't say that if they do know. We also know that he stayed at a condo in Keystone, though health officials say that they don't know specifically which condo that was. They say that the property owner, whoever owns that condo, has not been contacted, and they don't even know if somebody is staying there right now in that same condo where this infected person was staying just a couple of days ago. They are not sure of that at this moment. Still, they say that if there is somebody staying there, it should be safe for them to be there.
You don't know where the condo is, and now someone's in that condo renting it. Is there a concern there? Is there a worry there? Would you stay in a condo in Keystone without knowing exactly where this is at?
Again, we're trying as fast as we can to get the information that we need to be able to provide information and details to where this location is so that we can provide that guidance and protect the public.
Now, at this moment, they say that nobody who may have been in contact with him in the general public has been contacted. Of course, he was with his fiancée as well as a couple friends. They are all in quarantine right now. But aside from them, they say that nobody who he may have had in contact with has been contacted at this point, at least from the Summit County health officials. Now, the hospital right next door to where we just had this press briefing here in Summit County just a couple of minutes ago, that hospital is on what they are calling a lockdown right now, meaning that only patients can come in, no visitors or anything like that. We saw hospital officials and police officers outside greeting people, making sure that just patients can go inside. Kim?
It was evident that they're kind of trying to get their arms around this right now, trying to assure people, but they still are really trying to piece together this visit and exactly what happened and who this person encountered.
Exactly. They are trying to piece together where he was each moment of the day, where he may have had lunch, for example, where he may have skied, where he may have gone to a bar after skiing. We don't know any of those. We don't know the answers to any of those questions at this time.
Yeah, you think about everything. Rental equipment, as you mentioned, the condo, where it is. So a lot more to learn in this case. Thank you. Mark Salinger reporting from Summit County.
Centura Health is asking patients to call hospitals before heading to emergency rooms if they feel like they might have symptoms related to coronavirus. That gives hospitals time to prepare. Centura says just showing up with those symptoms could inadvertently put other patients at risk.
Health experts say this is not the time to panic because as we are looking harder, we are going to find more cases of coronavirus in our state over the next several weeks. Our 9 health expert, Dr. Pyle Coley, tells us that Coloradans need to get this message that we're ready for this, but this is also something that is going to impact the way we live our lives.
One of the big take-home messages from this virus is that we are not victims of the virus, but we're actively participating in the spread of the virus. So our behavior as Coloradans is now going to influence how this virus spreads across our state. And it's something that is going to make us smarter and more conscious about our health and a little bit more calculated in the decisions that we make. So it may not be the best time to plan that elective travel for spring break or the best time to go buy concert tickets.
So Dr. Coley says, again, it's all about preparation, good hygiene, best defense, hand washing, covering your cough, staying home from work if you're feeling sick, and calling your doctor if you have flu-like symptoms. Keep in mind, about 80% of the people who contract the virus have very mild or no symptoms at all. 20% of vulnerable adults, including the elderly, are at risk of having more critical symptoms. And today we got a look inside the lab where they're testing for coronavirus. The Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment can test 160 people a day. So far, lab workers say they've conducted 133 tests. There were 2 positive cases, 93 negative, and 38 still pending. The lab's scientific director says they're pulling techs from elsewhere to get those test results out as soon as possible.
West Metro Fire Rescue is taking additional precautions to protect firefighters and paramedics. First responders will start wearing head-to-toe protective gear, including gowns, masks, eyewear if they suspect possible coronavirus. Only one person on the crew will examine the patient. If the patient is not at risk, they can stay home. If they have to go to the hospital, West Metro will create what they describe as an isolation area in the ambulance and warn the hospital ahead of time of their arrival. Crews will then disinfect the ambulance once they've dropped off the patient. West Metro says dispatchers are also asking patients about their symptoms and collecting information about their travel history. There are now more than 225 cases of COVID-19 in the U.S. There are 3,500 passengers and crew on the Grand Princess cruise ship held off the coast of San Francisco right now. Officials say 35 people on board have flu-like symptoms. 4 passengers on a previous cruise on that very ship tested positive for coronavirus. A military helicopter flew test kits to the ship to see if anybody's positive. Also today, Senate passed an $8 billion emergency funding bill to fight the spread. If you would like updates on coronavirus in Colorado, you can text the word coronavirus to 303-871-1491. We'll text back with a link to our coverage.